Hello, hello, hello. Kevin here, representing Crypto Traders Arena. Hello, hello, hello. Tuesday stream. Kevin here, and let me just make sure I lost my YouTube page, so I'm not 100% sure I'm actually streaming at the moment. But welcome, everybody. It's Tuesday afternoon for me, right about this New York stock market close. And, of course, on Tuesdays now, days I'm streaming to just to the public on YouTube. Just basically to talk about whatever I'm seeing in the market. And, of course, Tuesdays is also a day where now we have Stefan live scalping during the London session. So if you're awake and trading at that time, every Tuesday he's doing, basically just trading and has the stream going. So if you're interested in seeing how him and the rest of our group kind of scalp and stuff, that's a good day to do it. Tuesdays it is. And of course, if you're in our Discord room on the premium side, then there's more opportunities to live trade with us every day at the New York Open. And for that matter, on Tuesdays, actually the New York session is open to the general public too. So you have to be a member in our Discord, which as of today basically is now set to private. So if you if you're listening to this and you're not a member of our Discord room, you're gonna have to reach out to either Paul or myself or Stefan or any of the gladiators, really, if you know anybody, to get an invite link, because we did have to just, we can't just post the public link anymore. It's just getting too bad with the scammers and imposters and all that good stuff. So now we are private, our Discord room's private. However, still welcome to join. We'd love to have you if you're interested. And of course, in our free room, we, bulk of what we're doing is every Sunday, Paul and I are doing a YouTube stream to kind of track our altcoin investment plan. We're just, trying to demonstrate a nice, simple way to invest in altcoins and take advantage of the upcoming bull run, which we're hoping to see sometime in the next year or so. And I think everything's just going along as planned with that. We've been talking about essentially a accumulation year here in 2023, where we feel like the bulk of the bear market from last cycle is over, and most altcoins obviously got destroyed and came all the way back down to the lows, which is pretty common. And so then at some point things started bottoming out at the end of last year, and we're thinking this year is basically going to be accumulation year. So we're just trying to buy altcoins at the bottom of the range and sell halves on doubles and hold the rest into the next bull cycle is the basic plan. But of course, you could follow along with that by watching our Sunday show, and then also there, in our Discord room, we have a crypto weekly plan channel where we basically share all the activity on that plan. And also, we just launched Miku's new spreadsheet last week. So we also have a spreadsheet that you can download and use if you'd like. It's the spreadsheet we're using for that plan, and you can see the actual bids and entries and sells that we have going on. But you can also just make a copy of it and use it for your own plan if you'd like. It's pretty cool. So anyway, that's that's where Crypto Traders Arena is at the moment. We're now private on Discord, obviously, but still plugging away. And of course, we have our free side and our premium side, which premium side's focused more on people that want to do this craft professionally, and we're really trying to, as a group, all act as professional traders. So of course, what does that mean? Of course, that means that we're working from trading plans we've created and we're taking vetted setups. We're not just going in and trading willy-nilly. We've all worked hard to create our own trading plans, and we're just doing our best to follow that plan and go execute in the marketplace. Taking setups that we've pre-vetted, and also practicing proper risk management, so we're not putting ourselves in too much danger here in this risky business. So anyway, That's kind of my intro. Today I thought, just since I'm talking to the public, I thought it'd be cool to zoom out since it is the end of the, we just finished another month. Made me think of pulling up my this monthly Bitcoin chart to look at it, and I remembered I had this Bitcoin halving cycle chart made that I hadn't looked at in a long time. So I thought it'd be cool to just pull it up and kind of try to offer a sort of a zoomed out perspective of what I see in Bitcoin, and then also how that relates to like crypto, and kind of getting into that sort of long-term altcoin plan as well, and just sort of showing how I think that everything's just sort of moving along like we've kind of expected all year. And so I have every intention of continuing to try to accumulate these altcoins going forward. But this is kind of cool just to see, I have the halvings. This is an indicator on TradingView called Bitcoin halvings that I found, which is kind of cool. It just shows you the past halvings. And so, of course, the third halving was in May of 2020. And our next one is April of 2024, around that time, sometime April, May of 2024. So a little less than a year away. And I mean, in general, I think people think of the halving as quite bullish. And I think the best way to, we can, it'd be cool to just look at this chart for a second here, and I'll kind of point out what I'm seeing. And you can kind of see that there is somewhat of a pattern. I have no idea if it's going to replicate itself again this time, but it seems to be so far. And I'll just highlight a couple things. I won't get it. So this was like cycle one, I guess you could say. And because it was the beginning of Bitcoin, and this is the Brave New Coin BLX. So it's the oldest chart, or the chart that goes the farthest back I could find on TradingView, going back to 2010. And, there are similarities between this cycle and the other cycles, but I'm going to focus on the past couple and then the one we're in now for right now. And really just draw attention to a couple things. Like one, we have a tendency to bottom somewhere in between halvings. You can see back in this second cycle here, the bottom came in approximately 19 months before the halving, or not approximately, it actually came in 19 months before the halving, I should say. And you can see how we just sort of grinded up into the halving event, and then after that it was just bull run. And so that's kind of what I think people expect. Whether that happens this time or not, I have no idea, but it's essentially happened the last two times. And so you can see like 19 bars there. And then the other important number, I mean, there's 33 months from the top, to the next halving, which I don't think is as important. And then there was, 11 months of bull run after the halving up into the top, which is pretty important. And then probably most importantly is just notice how Bitcoin's come off the top. This cycle, 86%. Previous cycle was 93%. It came off, then, these two, 84%, and then most recently 77%. So, I mean, I think it's safe to say that Bitcoin likes to retrace good 80% after a previous bull run. And so, at 77%, I think we hit that this cycle. But nonetheless, back to this second cycle here, it came off 86%, bottomed about 19 months into the halving event, and then it was bull run after. And then this next third cycle, if you want to call it that, very similar, 18 bars. The bottom came in 18 bars before the halving, 19 bars previously, 18 this time. Came off 84%, and also kind of ran up into a bull run. As the halving hit, we sort of didn't look back. Like neither one of these times, the low we put in on the halving essentially was the low for a while there. In both these cases, we went into a bull run. So, hopefully you can see the similarities here, even just looking at this, but the actual timing sort of lined up pretty well here. And then this cycle, if you just followed this, it actually did a pretty good job calling the bottom. If we just, if we had the third halving in 2020 May, of course that was COVID, and of course we had that sort of anomaly black swan event here down. I don't know if COVID maybe wouldn't have happened. Maybe we'd have just sort of kind of grinded up into it without that dip. Who knows? But either way, you can see the monthly W back here came in, to sort of set up the move into the halving. Here also trying to W. It's kind of weird looking, but because of COVID, we ended up with sort of this big ass W that didn't really truly break out till after the halving. But either way, you can see kind of double bottom action heading into it. And so anyway, now most recently, so that was 2020. We obviously went through that epic bull run after, like, kind of during COVID. Both crypto, stock market, everything was going nuts. After we got on the other side of the like dump. And it's funny, on a monthly chart, you look back at COVID and you're just like, geez, it's just like nothing. That was a pretty epic time period. Everybody was pretty fearful of Bitcoin, fearful of everything. Markets dipped hard and then just got bought right up. And now it doesn't look like anything. It just looks like a 3-bar fractal to the upside on a monthly chart. So, but anyway, getting back to this current cycle, obviously went into that bull run that took 17 bars. So the bull run after the halving was 17 months, where it was like 16 before and 11 before that. But then we sure enough did come off 80% or almost. Not quite though, so I'll get into that in a minute. Does that mean maybe we still have to come off more? It may be. We didn't quite hit 80. We got close. We got to 77. But you could see how like the bottom was basically targeted at 18 bars before the next halving. And of course we don't know the exact date of that event, but it's going to be somewhere around there. And so, and if we just took 18 months exactly, then the bottom would have been called for October of 2022. And we actually put it in November. So, that was the low, November of 2022. Of course, into the FTX drama, which funny enough now, anyway, there's more FTX drama as always, or at least SBF. So anyhow, pretty good job of just kind of like, you could have anticipated a bottom coming in this area and you would have been doing pretty good. So far, this sort of halving cycle seems to be, playing out like similar to the previous. We put in our bottom 18 months before the halving. Here we are 17, 18 months before the halving, put in a bottom, and we've just been bouncing in. And so I don't know what would happen now. I suppose if like just looking at these past things, I see the possibility of just grinding sort of sideways uppy right into the event next year. And that seems possible. Of course, I don't love that. And I'd like the idea of more of like a weekly W or monthly W, even like this. And so, just looking at, this was last month's candle here, this red, kind of put in like a doji here last month. Bitcoin's obviously kind of weak heading into this time right now. Doesn't look great. Kind of suggests we're pulling back a little bit, but I think that'd be ideal. Any kind of pullback here, but holding these lows would sort of, I think that would create a stronger upside afterwards. So I would personally, I don't know what's going to happen, but I would love to see some sort of dip around here. And then we go into that sort of bull run next year. Following this, that's what I would kind of, I could see something like that happen. And that sort of fits the model that we're trying to, or at least I'm trying to sort of frame my, the next year or two in crypto trading. I kind of think the more sideways, like, I don't know, I don't really want to, Bitcoin's made a pretty solid move straight up here, and it's kind of V bottomish on a monthly chart. And I think just if it kept grinding higher right now, that's probably not the ideal setup. I think some more sideways action before this halving event would be ideal. And so far that, when we drill down into some like lower time frame charts, we can see that like Bitcoin is getting weak here. And so I don't know. I think this very well could be the bottom. I've been saying this for a while. I don't know if we're going to make new lows. And in fact, if we lose this 16,000 low or 15.5, that sort of breaks this model. That would make another huge M here. And then just like looking at like a logarithmic chart, you know, you can kind of see obviously Bitcoin's been in an uptrend for its entire existence, just making higher highs, higher lows. And it's sort of got this logarithmic curve going where we're sort of at the bottom. You've probably seen like the stock to flow or any of the logarithmic curve charts people draw, where clearly this was sort of testing the lows of that curve. And so if we really start losing those lows, I don't know if this becomes broken and Bitcoin isn't in an uptrend anymore, like a super zoomed out like uptrend that it's been enjoying for, 10 plus years now. So, I mean, that's a key low. Obviously, 15,000. I mean, that's an interesting low because it's the first time Bitcoin lost its previous cycle high. You know, we topped out at 20 almost exactly in 2017. And then now we dipped into lower than that. Whereas like, back here, we topped out at like 1,200, never tested that 1,200. So like, that's just kind of something to think about. It's like you kind of want this low to be held if you're like a long-term bull. I don't really want to see that lost. Now it could happen, of course. And like, doesn't necessarily mean I'm throwing in the towel on Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's here to stay. I just, losing that low maybe we have to go into like a long macro range or something. Bitcoin's been in this crazy uptrend and then it has to range for a while. That could certainly happen. So that would be like if that low gets lost, I think that might be what we're doing is, entering a different sort of like market state than we've been in on the monthly chart. So it could be different, slightly different this time. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying that's for sure, but I guess what I'm saying here is if we're going to keep this solid uptrend, we probably want to hold those lows, make some sort of monthly bottom here before next April, So like maybe that's into the end of this year. We start pulling back into like the 20s or something, 19, 20. Because clearly this is sort of V-bottomish and Bitcoin's showing signs of weakness. There probably is going to be some sort of pullback. I have no idea how deep it's going to be. And I even have upside targets that I still think need to be hit, which I'll get into in a minute. But like, point being, some sort of bottom sliding into the end of the year would be like sort of ideal to me. And then we do replicate this sort of uppiness right outside of the halving, and then party is on for the next cycle, and we do get like another sort of big bull cycle. So that's like option one. And then I suppose option two, we start losing those lows, and if we don't start Wing out quick, then there's a change in the state. Like that'd be like a market structure shift or something like, change in state. We'd have this massive M, which funny enough, we didn't really M out here. You could argue that's an M. And we're essentially testing that M right now. So like this is a pivotal moment, I would suppose, in that sense. Like we're coming up into monthly M resistance here. So anyway, just kind of food for thought for this sort of, people like talk about the halving a lot. Everybody's super bullish on it. I don't see any reason to not be bullish until this structure changes, if it does. But for the moment, I kind of think this would be ideal. We basically just sort of slide into the end of the year and set a base for the real bull run, which I don't think has started yet. I mean, I think the bottom has started. And so anyway, that's kind of how I see this zoomed out Bitcoin in terms of the monthly candle itself. Just last month, nothing too exciting here, obviously, right? It's just kind of like almost like it's not really a shooting star, but it did get kind of an ugly close here. It's more of a doji, so just sort of makes sense. We're in the almost not quite the middle of the range, but we're basically, we're just kind of in a place where it's like too late to be a buyer, but probably too early to be a seller as an investor. So it's just kind of in the middle of the range, sort of. But anyhow, like if we maybe look a little closer at Bitcoin, I mean, I think the point here is so that zoomed out, so say we're going to like slide into the end of the year in some sort of bottoming thing. I think that this chart speaks to that too. Just like from some basic technical analysis, we can see that Bitcoin is looking a little heavy. And that's most specifically, we came pretty hard, we've been in a pretty solid uptrend and then we were trapped in this sort of kind of ugly consolidation range for a while, started building things like RSI divergences and And, coming up into previous sort of resistance, like this traffic area over here. And it's not a huge surprise that we're kind of rolling over. And I suppose if we were going to roll over into the end of the year type thing, then this wouldn't be the worst place to start drawing your fibs and targeting lower areas to be a buyer, And that's fine. Like clearly, like we're, clearly in the sort of shorter term, you can see we've been struggling with the moving averages crossing over here. We've been basically rolling over, and it looks kind of heavy. That said, though, I'm still not throwing in the towel in this bull run. This like whatever you want to call this, like first part of this year bull run, that we've enjoyed since basically since the end of last year. We've been in this solid uptrend. And the reason I don't, I've been targeting 35,000 just as a reasonable place for price to hit and potentially top out. So like, I can't, yes, Bitcoin looks kind of weak right here with the divs coming in and just sort of running out of steam here. But I do just think this 35,000 is too much of a magnet to rule out just yet. Like I've been talking for a while about the ABCDs here. and I basically have speculated that this ABCD might happen mostly because of the target area. The target of this ABCD would basically be 35,000, which is essentially just 38.2 fib off of the top of the the all-time high, and also the head and shoulders target, which I really, even to start with that, I think this head and shoulders is really valid. I just don't underestimate the likelihood of this head and shoulders completing. We made a nice big head and shoulders, tested the neckline, which is always a good sign, like to see that rejection at the neckline and moving higher, or it's more like confirmation, not rejection. And so we have this nice head and shoulders, and the target of that head and shoulders is 35,117. So going. So anyway, I've framed that 35,000 as like a reasonable upside objective. So I don't think that, we definitely don't have like an M here yet or any sort of solid confirmation we've rolled over. And so I don't think you can, I think it'd be cool to see Bitcoin sort of like slide into the end of the year, like I was saying, and probably exhaust this rally. Cause if we keep going straight up, obviously we're going to get into like some parabolic action here, and that'll probably likely result in a top coming in, wherever it came in, but it would sort of kill the rally for a while after that resolves. Like we almost don't want to see, it'd be nice to not see some super parabolic move here. I'd rather see this, come and make like a massive W down the road, essentially. Like that would be, basically like something like, pull back and then another W to go into that halving event. I think that's like the ideal situation. So I do think a top, like a local top, is probably coming in somewhere around here. I just think it's like likely to come in at 35 and not right here. Of course, I'm speculating here. I don't really know, but I'm basing this on some technical analysis. I have, sitting right here, we have some reasons to think that the market's cooled off and rolled over a bit. Again, like just repeating, couldn't really build any strength above a new high and kind of ran out of the higher highs kind of steam here. We did make a higher high technically, but we're kind of running out of steam at the moment. So we need to find some sort of support down here and then rally to a new high to keep the trend intact. And, of course, I already mentioned, we have like RSI divergence. OBV is breaking down in an M right now. So, yeah, so, there's some reasons to say this is rolled over, but I don't think you can call it top here, really. I don't see like a solid M. And also location-wise, it's just not really that great of a location for a top to come in. We did have like an ABCD objective kind of come in right around this area a while ago, like on the BlackRock pump here. And so that was like sort of a PRZ. Well, I'm sorry, that actually came in back here. So that was kind of like this PRZ. I'm talking about ABCDs off the lows here. And that was the only really location reason for like a rollover, I think, because we haven't even hit 38.2 yet. Usually we start getting up like this and you kind of expect to see 38.2 hit. That hasn't happened. So I still think that's, I still think I'm still looking for this 35,000. It's not like some call I'm gonna like die on the fucking you know. If I'm wrong here, I don't know. It's just if I were to guess, like where, you know, I could see price shooting up there this summer and then rolling over into the end of the year. But that sort of fits with the pieces of like zoomed out more. Like if we are pulling back to make some sort of like W, even if it's not this clean, but we're going to pull somewhere into here, you know, 22,000, 23,000, somewhere, you know, even if you're just drawing fibs off the lows here and trying to like target like reasonable look, you know, say we do top out at 35, that would be up there. And my W turns out it's just right in a reload zone actually that I drew. So that makes sense, you know, so Mountain Man would be here at like 23,000. So like a pullback to 23,000 would just be nice and healthy. You know, pullback to even 78.6 is 19.7. That's a nice healthy place to sort of find ourselves into the end of the year. And maybe the last buy opportunity before the bull. You know, and then of course your risk is, do we lose those lows? And that's that, like I saw Paul saying this time is different I'm not necessarily saying this time is different. I was trying to more just articulate the change in market state we would have if we lost those lows. It would be hard. It would be different. It would be a different change in state. We've been in this upwards trend state, like very much a bullish trend state, never making lower lows in the key pivot levels. If we lost that level, that would be so that of course is your downside risk. But, you know, getting back to my thesis of like, say we pop up to 35, roll over into reload zones, 23,000, that's going to be a nice area to be interested in investing in Bitcoin, in my opinion. If that's your thing, you know. Now maybe I might be more interested in altcoins here, in terms of just having more upside, but just using Bitcoin as a gauge for the entire crypto market. I think that's kind of what we'd want to see, is some sort of bottom through here, you know, whether that's like into this end of this year or early next year. And then we sort of push up into the halvening again, just like this. We kind of just sort of push up into it and then go into a bull run sometime next year. That would be cool. So that's kind of generally, that's like my general thesis. And that thesis would be sort of ruined by losing this low at this point. I think I do like the idea of the 16,000 low being the low. Anyway, that's sort of like a zoomed out rant on Bitcoin. Shorter term, going back to my kind of like bounce here, like where are we going to bounce? You can see, like, I know my charts look kind of messy because I've been trying to leave these things on here because I've been talking about this, this location for a while now, and it has played. It's taken a long time, but like, I mean, I drew this Collins pump chaser zone type 38.2 to 50% level range here off of this fib, you know, the BlackRock pump, if you will. And then I just, now technically I should have dragged that up there, that we made that high. And so that did drag 38.2 up a little bit, but I was basically working off of this range the whole time. And sure enough, you can see how we ran out of steam. I mean, the moving averages were pointing up. We were in a solid uptrend. We ran out of steam. Eventually moving averages crossed. We started checking the 13 EMA on the underside and just getting rejected, and then dumped down into the 38.2 and did bounce originally. But couldn't get back, we haven't been able to get back inside this range here, this kind of ugly range that we were trapped in for a while. So we got rejected again yesterday off the 13, which is never a good sign. So as soon as I saw that, like the close yesterday was pretty ugly after getting rejected here, that was a pretty good sign. We were probably heading lower still. And funny enough, we just basically bounced it off of the next logical support, which was this high back here. And so basically, this is what I've been saying is going to happen. But we still didn't get the W here, and I'm still looking for that W. And I added this trend line like last week, I think, and was just saying, let's wait and see what happens over on the other side of the trend line. And I think if you're trying to like swing trade this move to the 35 level, which I am, I think if a buy opportunity comes in around here, then sure, I'd like the idea of taking that shot up to 35. That's kind of like, is there some sort of August rally? Like, can Bitcoin get itself together here in the next couple of weeks to pump again and maybe make this ABCD? Yeah, but there's no W here yet. So, the story here is do we get a W here? You could see today we slammed down into that level. That was pretty reasonable level for probably people to close shorts. Maybe late shorters are going to get punished a bit here. Anybody that was shorting today is probably going to get run over. But we just came down into this logical level and we bounced, but there's still no W. So there's still no trend continuation trade. This would be like a trend continuation trade up to 35. And it's not, in my opinion, on a daily chart, there's no structure to support that move yet. So we might have to still head lower. I've talked about this as an open gap here, fair value gap all the way down to, whatever level you want to draw as support. There's kind of like this traffic area down here at like 27. And you can see the 200 period moving average is kind of grinding up into that level. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to take a drink of water. So yeah, anyway, maybe we have to come down a little lower, but wherever this base comes in, I think as long as we're inside of, the trend continuation trade will still be on. If maybe I'll draw like a fib right here and just, Mountain Man here, 61.8 is 27,466. So anywhere, around there, basically above the 200 period moving average, as long as the W comes in somewhere above there, then I think you could argue the trend continuation trade might be on. At some point, you have to ask yourself if we're carving out a range here, and these are range highs, though. Huh. That's weird. Geez, sorry guys. I'm having some technical difficulties with this mixer I have. It's weird. It must have cut out. I don't know how much of my audio just got cut out. Yeah, it was my mute. I have a mute button on this mixer that yeah, it's getting flaky. Because I'd muted myself to cough and then, yeah, geez. Well, it's always a work in progress here with these streams. Lost 30 seconds to a minute, Paul's saying so. Well, really didn't miss much. I was just still conveying this idea of whether there's a continuation trade here or not. I think, I'll try to wrap that conversation up here by just saying, clearly we've been in a period of higher highs, higher lows. This is an uptrend. Does this uptrend have enough juice to take us up to 35, which would be like another higher high? So this is a continuation trade, right? Because I'm looking to buy a dip. Yeah, we're traders, not influencers, like Paul says. Yeah, I suck at. The funny thing is, I do have an audio recording background, but I still suck at making. It's the hardest part is just when you're by yourself doing this, because you can't really check. Like if your audio is off, you're still just like looking at the chart, talking away by yourself, which is hilarious. I'm more of an under the influencer. Anyhow, then I got distracted again. But I mean, as a tangent though, we are just doing this. We have this cool community. The people that are working hard, like we do have a solid group of people that are working hard on a daily basis to improve their own trading, and we find that we all work together and it helps us all, and more experienced people can teach the newer people, and we're trying to reach out to the public because we do want to grow the community. And it's funny right now, there's not that many people interested in crypto, and so the people that do sort of find us and start hanging out with us are usually pretty diehard about it. And to be certain, you kind of have to be diehard about trading if you want to. Our approach is to try to, we're trying to act professionally in the market, and so we know what that means, and we're all just working together to improve upon that. And just the reality is we all have to do it independently for ourselves, but as a group we can just sort of grow faster and learn faster, and watch other people and see other people's styles, and that helps figure out what works for each of us. And so that's the point of our community. It's not really we're not trying to be YouTube influencers, but we are reaching out to people, trying to find the 5% of the people that actually want to do this for real. And it's kind of funny because it's like the opposite of influencing, because clearly if you want to be like a social media influencer, it's in your best interest to just get as many followers as possible. But with trading, you kind of put yourself in this funny situation where the reality is like 95% of the people that are looking on YouTube at Bitcoin videos right now, they're probably not cut out to be traders. It's funny. So our target market's very small. It's like a funny thing. Like we're looking for the 5% of people that are willing to put the work in, that actually can understand what being a professional trader looks like, and they want to work on that. Whereas we'd probably do better as influencers if we were just saying Bitcoin's going to the fucking moon, and like we just make those thumbnails and try to appeal to the 95% of people that are probably going to buy the next top. So it's kind of a funny thing. We can't appeal to everybody. So if I'm saying anything that interests you at all, that probably means that you're pretty into this. And I'm certainly never going to just tell you how to get rich. I mean, I'd like to show you how to take advantage of in this particular case, how to take advantage of the Bitcoin cycle and the altcoin cycle that seems to be replicating. As a long-term investor, that's sort of the easiest way to get started, and just start nibbling on these things and learning how to manage your risk and take profit at appropriate, buy at appropriate times and take profit at appropriate times. That's sort of like step one, and it's easier to do on like daily charts. But of course, in our group, we start zooming in, and we're trading for real, like scalping on a daily basis. Trying to get as many reps in as we can on the market. So yeah, we're not YouTubers. So sorry for the maybe my sound sucks. Maybe I ramble on about shit. But I'm really just trying to spark interest in people. I'm not trying to have all the answers. It's more like I'm trying to say things that might help people that are thinking about something a certain way see it a little bit differently, or maybe I say something that helps you learn, or just helps just confirm your own analysis. Because at the end of the day, I know that I could tell you exactly where to buy, and if you could tell 10 people to take the same trade, and 8 of them would fuck it up. So like, even if you gave them you could give them the entry, the exit, the time, everything, you could give them all the information, and 10 different people would execute that trade differently in the market. It's just, so I already know this, so I can't really tell you guys what to do. I would never even try. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself. But I can ramble on about what I think, and I'm not even the best at this shit. I'm just another person trying my best. So that was fucking. Now I'm way off track, but I was trying to say that the point I was trying to make is that there's a potential continuation trade, or that trade fails, and we have to change our view of the market, in my opinion. Like just talking about Bitcoin here, it's like we're making higher highs and higher lows. We've been in this uptrend since, like, I would say even since right here when we checked the 200 moving average in March. That was like confirmation that the bull trend has started. Like we kind of were in this rangy period here. We were in bear market back here when the moving average was just pointing straight down. And then we kind of, as we got close to the moving average, we went into a ranging period. As we broke out, that was like potential change in state. And then, as we came back and checked this and stayed, so strongly above it, and then the moving average starts turning up, we went into an uptrend. And so now we're in this uptrend. So that means, like on a daily chart, if you're like a range trader, you'd probably have to draw your range off of this consolidation and assume that we're at the top of the range. So there's no longs here for a range trader. That's kind of what I'm getting at. On a daily chart, I'm not talking about scalping here, but if you're, this is a horrible place to buy. So then if you're like a swing trader, you might go like, well, we're making higher highs and higher lows. That means I'm looking for trend continuation. I'm trying to buy a pullback, buy the dip. Like we've been in a buy the dip. So there's been 2 solid buy the dip continuation trades. And now there's the possibility of a third one. Like, I don't know if it's going to happen. And so, but what I do know is I want it to hold, I want to see a W come in like, above the 200 here to give me confidence that we could pop up to 35,000, which is my sort of objective that I've framed. And so, so if we lose the 200, then the range traders are going to start hunting reload zones down here for the pullback. And that's what I'll be doing too. But until we really lose the 200 here, I'm still thinking that the trend is up. So that, that's kind of like the difference between trend continuation and range trading. That's a huge, those are 2 different kinds of trading. So you have to kind of know which one you are, or maybe you're both, and you have to know what environment you're in. And right now the environment I'm in is the pullbacks are buying opportunities. I've said this like every week for like a long time now. Pullbacks are buying opportunities. We're in an uptrend. There's no M yet. There's no like, we haven't broken down for real yet. We show weakness for sure, but I'm still looking for this, any kind of W here, and I'm going to try to take that trade. That's the long ass way of saying that. So, but like, hopefully, I mean, just to repeat, like, so like, the monthly chart, like the halving chart, it suggests that, we're probably going to either sidewaysy grind into the halving. So that means like, do we stay like in a tight range here until the halving? Like, seems likely. Or do we stay in this wider range? That seems pretty likely, but I'm sort of shooting for a top up here. So I kind of think the range will actually become, like if we shoot up here and then we like M out and then we kind of come back down to set up the next bottom, wherever that is, to set up the move into the halving. That's sort of what I was trying to frame with the monthly chart. So we'll see if that happens. We'll see if like that actually happens or not. I have no idea. I think that's one option. The other option is we just sort of lose it here and we start grinding back down, and still same thing applies. Then we draw our fibs off the lows, start hunting 61.8s and below, or whatever our plans say, to that'll be the buying opportunity in Bitcoin. The next long-term buy opportunity will be somewhere, after this rollover. This is just like a trade. So anyway, that was like 45 minutes of Bitcoin. I didn't really mean to do that, but I'll just jump into some altcoins that I wanted to show some altcoins that are potentially buyable. I didn't see like tons of strength across the, as I like thumbed through, as I was thumbing through altcoins, say there's not like ones that I'm like, well, they're must buys right this moment, but there are some damn nice ones that I have bought, and like this Earn is the one I'll start with. I think one of our members originally brought this up as a low coin count. I think it was like 70 million active coins. I don't know anything else about it as far as fundamental, but a member had brought it up, and I just like the looks of it, mostly because of Well, I mean, it has basically the reasons, starting with location. Like if I drew, even I like to go off the lows here, like you could draw your fibs off one of these lows if you wanted. Personally, as I'm like trying to zoom out and look at these sort of like, you could see this thing clearly changed from bear market to basing market back here in, last June. And of course, you don't really know that until you started to make like a higher low here. And then we even got like a weekly W. So that was like something changed there, right? Like, we're in this horrible bear market, just grinding to new lows, catch a bounce, put in a W, and now we've entered in a basing sort of period. And so I like to use that low to draw my fibs, but you can see like we're sitting down here at 88.6, lower than 78.6 is $1.89 just above this thing. So location 100% is good without a doubt. You can see the bottom coming in. A couple massive pumps that probably produced doubles and stuff. Yeah, it looks like they definitely did. Could have been banging out doubles here. I didn't even know about this thing now, but if you're buying reload zones back here, you would have banged a double out already, and you could be buying back here. But right now we have like essentially what I would say is an ugly weekly W. So we have locations good, and then we have this kind of steep W, which I'll admit I don't love, but it gets me thinking in the right direction. And then lastly, I'm just looking at OBV trending higher here. So, and even in divergences a little bit here, like as we W'd out in OBV right here recently. And it's just sitting there. So like, I think buys, location's clearly good. So even if you're just going to go nibble right here, I mean, I wouldn't say you're chasing per se, but to be fair, maybe this has to take some more time and put in a tighter weekly W. That'd be like the more conservative play would be to wait for another W to come in. But man, I don't know. Like, again, going back to the whole like halving thing. So if Bitcoin rolls over into the end of the year, we're in a basing year right now. Coins look like this, where they're down on their knees, but starting to show signs of like weekly W's and stuff like that. This one has a base working, a weekly W working, that's still holding its lows. And so it's like sometime towards the end of the year, are you going to have a chance to buy this? Probably like anywhere around here. And then, next year when like, if the bull market starts next year, maybe it takes another year, but like if we do get into some sort of bull cycle next year, you're going to be loaded up from the bottom on this. It seems like, not a bad idea. And the upside here, it's $1.75 right here, but look at this shit. I mean, it goes all the way up. The highs are $25. So, I mean, one thing I would do is just to be conservative. I'm not looking for new highs. Even a move to 38.2 is $10 here. So it's like a 5X, 6X or whatever back to 38.2. So I like this one. Seems like a nice location, nice low coin count. Otherwise, I don't know anything else about it. This is one that Stefan started talking about yesterday, and it was like pumping hard yesterday, and now they've brought it back. Like on a daily chart, you can see they they sort of FU'd the lows here, so it's not actually a W. They just ticked below, and that would be like a setup in itself if that's kind of your thing. Just basically buying that low would have been an insane trade if you were just hitting that level, which I think is a viable way to trade these for sure. It's not uncommon to see that, but either way, this is kind of a W. It's not really, and they just brought it right back down. So I'm just more watching this one. Like when I zoom out on the weekly again, even though it's not a full-on weekly W here, a real one, I hope you can at least just see, like I like to see OBV divergences, and you can see from this kilo to new lows down here. OBV is now in a big W, so it's now confirmed, which is sort of like step one or step two of my plan. Step one would be location, and then step two would be like, a W minimum, or hopefully a confirmed divergence would be better, but a W is good enough for me. So yeah, I have location is good because we're at new lows, which is good for location, but it's also kind of like, oh shit, we could keep making new lows. So it's not like we have a range now to, like, we haven't actually formed a base yet to work with. We're making new lows still, so you have to keep that in mind. But you can see this is sort of like that one I was just showing, like Earn. This was where we set the base when we made this weekly W. So now maybe you could say the same thing about this. Is like we're in the beginnings of setting this base, so now we've got a low to work with, and so if we can hold that low, that's a good sign. But for anybody that's interested in the name itself, I mean it's basically back to the breakout level, and you can see RSI got oversold and now has a nice W, and you can see we have OBV divergence that is now actually, well, technically it has to wait till the end of the week to confirm on this weekly chart. So, anything could happen. We could end up as a big ugly ass red candle when this thing gets like hacked tomorrow or something. But, if we close right here, we're basically going to have that OBV divergence confirmed. So I don't have a problem with buying that one right there. And yeah, Richard's saying it's a weekly W on the line chart, which, yeah, if you look at it on the line chart, you can see it. So nice base here. Or nice potential trade here. I think it's a little early to call a true base here. This is like the beginnings of it. I like not to keep talking about this earn or anything. Like, it's not my favorite coin or anything, but I do like that it's now set up kind of a wider consolidation period. That's gonna give us more juice to get up higher when it does start going. Another weekly W that I've been talking about is YGG. This one is sort of like, this is a nicer chart than the last two, in my opinion, because, essentially we had, well, it's similar in the sense that location's the same, as we did dip to a new low. So we are making new lows technically. But, it was down against the old lows, and now we're Wing out. And OBV is also in divergence. As we made a new low, OBV didn't make a new low, and we kept churning higher. And now we have a nice W in OBV to sort of confirm this weekly W in price. And so, I mean, this one is also just sitting basically at the weekly W level. And I mean, if you're, you would have had a chance to buy it earlier this week, it looks like. And you'll probably still, likely have chances down the road to buy that level again at 17 cents essentially. But the upside on this one's massive too. I mean, this this one has more upside than, actually it keeps going. Yeah, so I mean, you can see this one, same kind of concept if we took fibs off the top. And I think the low is right there. 38.2 is 446 and it's at 17 cents. Like, I mean, that's like the kind of upside that you want to see. Like, I have no idea if it'll get back there, but it likely will. That's like freaking, that's a lot. That's just back to 38.2. So that's kind of how you got to be thinking. I mean, you might even be more conservative and just draw a line here and go like, geez, well, just to that resistance is 215. So still more than a 10x. And that's just like open air. If we can truly break out here, it's kind of open air up above here if we can start getting over these highs. Now, what I constantly see happening in stocks and this kind of stuff, and what I wouldn't be surprised to see happen is like a head and shoulders bottom that's actually coming in that's quite a bit bigger, that looks like this. So like that's the neckline there. We kind of come up into that neckline and then come back down, maybe into the end of the year again. Like maybe we pop up that high. That's quite a big move, but that's a double. It's just like a double or a little more than a double. We shoot up, this weekly W might take us up there, and we top out kind of around there here to start forming this neckline, and then into the end of the year, that's our buy opportunity again, like the sort of end of the year buy. I could see that happening. So you might be able to bang a double out here and then get a pullback to reload. But I do see that kind of head and shoulders-y thingy showing up a lot in these like long-term bottoms. So anyway, I like YGG. Yeah, take care, Richard. I don't know when you left, but thanks, man. And I'll just go over a couple more. Like I said, as far as weekly W's like this, I'm not seeing that many, truthfully. This is one of the few that I've seen that looks, I mean, if you're just going to, like if you wanted to zoom in and trade this W, I could certainly see how there might have been a swing trade setting up, like you can see the W here, like you could, not quite like LJ's. I mean, you could see, let's see here. if we drew a trend line off of there, W is not quite on the other side. So I don't know if the LJ is really there. I do see like sort of power 3 type behavior where we essentially, this would be another setup that people might like to trade if they've properly vetted it, of course. But you can see how we lost the range. And then as we get back inside the range, I could see taking longs back into the middle of the range, essentially. So like if that was the top of our range and this is the bottom of the old range, as we got back in, now I can see trades up into the, the middle or higher. And so like, buying any W's down in here for a move up higher seems reasonable to me. And you might be able to get your double off. You could see like buying, like say we do buy that W that just got tested and we got filled today or yesterday. And we just simply risk to that low. And so we're basically just looking for, a move back into the range now. Your double's not the middle of the range. It's more like up into the reload zones. But that's still like, that seems reasonable to me. Oh, thanks, Constantine. I'm glad you think that. I try my best. He's saying that my analysis isn't too bad. So that's nice. Thank you. And I'm just basically, these are concepts that I've sort of, I learned from a lot of them from TRI and some of them from elsewhere and from Brian and from just other people around me. But if anything, I'm just trying to use the simplest tools. I'm not trying to, I don't want to overcomplicate it. That's why I like sort of like Brian's teachings and because I think they do a pretty good job of that. So I'm just trying to articulate that and sort of just carry on with what I've learned. Let's say I was trying to bang a double out here. That's a 3-to-1. So yeah, say I bought that W, and funny enough, I didn't buy that W because I can't trade this like I'm not on Binance, but this would have to be like an on-chain thing. I haven't really looked into that, so I'm just talking about this one. But I would trade it, hell, if I could, because it looks good. This is like the nicest weekly chart I've seen this week. I'll just say that, but anyway, back to my point here. Move back up to. It's kind of, I don't love that. I mean, if we were just trying to range trade this, I would much prefer my target to be like Mountain Man or lower. But even still, like if you're just trying to trade a move back to Mountain Man here, stop's pretty wide for sure because of that tail. You might be able to zoom in and find a better structure. But if we were just taking this daily structure and I was just risking that W, that still seems reasonable to me for a pop up into 31 cents. Also reasonable to me is try to get in lower. I could see now drawing like a reload zone off of the W itself and just trying to hunt like better location. That's like 50% level. I could see hunting down in reload zone somewhere down here, and you probably would bang your double out. Your stop would be a little tighter. Double would be back to Mountain Man. So that's how important your entry is, though. Just as a point, like if you're chasing it up here, your entry's not so good, and you're gonna have, you're not gonna have as much of a chance of getting your double off. This is like, if you can get in down here, your double's just not even back to the reload zone. And so we know about range trading. When price is in a range, it's likely to test the top of the range. So I like this. That's more of like a trade, but great OBV divergence. I love that, like, this trade would have, it's not quite an LJ, but I do like that, you have basically the move outside of the range, like the power 3 type move, and then OBV div set up kind of in here, started confirming, as we were about to break the W out. Then you let the W break out, and then you start hunting your retest, which in this case would have either been there if you're aggressive, or you might still be hunting for a deeper pullback, which makes sense to me. So I like that as like a trade. But more I was talking about this weekly sort of like investor trade too. This is, those weekly W's nice. So there's that. And maybe I was going to mention Curve just because of the news, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's not hilarious, but it's kind of sad and also just so typical of crypto. I saw this, tweet where this Curve dev, he was in the news like a month ago or so because he had levered up to buy this house. He he like took a massive loan on Ave. And man, it's just what's sad. It's just he became a target the second the press, like I don't know if that's the house he bought. Jesus, he bought this fucking mega mansion, and he used 280 million of Curve as collateral and put a huge target on his back. And then now Curve gets hacked, and he's like, feeling the pain. I don't know. I don't think he's liquidated yet, but he just. Or I know he's not liquidated yet, but anyway, my point is it's kind of sad that he became a target immediately when this hit the news. And then sure enough, they hack Curve, and now Justin Sun's like stepping in and bailing him out. So it's just like another day in crypto. Like I swear Justin Sun, and then this guy's now buying all kinds of Curve and bailing this guy out. So like the whales are helping each other out. But I swear Justin Sun must own like most of crypto. Like he's definitely a huge player, obviously. But I just, I guess the lesson here is stay humble, really. I mean, it's, these dudes get so too big for their britches, and then they end up having to get chopped down a bit. But it is what it is. I mean, as far as like the price chart on Curve, it looks pretty good to me. And as soon as the Justin Sun news hit, it caught a bounce. I think it was up like 20% off the lows. Yeah, you can see how right on that news, that was today. That's bouncing, but I mean the chart still looks like it's trending down to me, but I do like it. I actually got filled on Curve here in this dump because I just had some nibbles working against the lows, so I don't see a problem here, right? There was a little bit of FUD that drove price down against the lows, but it's actually holding. This weekly W that came in originally back in 2020 is now just continually being tested and holding for the moment. Now, to be fair, there's M's all over here. This is not like the YGG chart I just showed you. I mean, there's a weekly W right here that sort of tried to get going, and it had pretty nice OBV. It just had confirmation with the W and OBV. I don't know if that was actually maybe that was a divergence. I can't quite see. Yeah, I guess it was. OBV was making a higher low there. So as we made new lows there, so we had that W, and that is still holding. So we do have a W base recently to kind of work with, and you can see how price is bouncing off of it now. So I mean, long story short is if the FUD resolves and stuff, this just becomes a great buy opportunity down the road as price ends up back here down the road. So I just would say, again, same thing. More aggressive nibblers could be drawing fibs off of this range here, and of course we'd be down in good location, and I could see buying down here no problem if this was something that you wanted to own. And clearly there's like a ton of upside. If you buy here at 60, even a double's just right here at $1.20, just testing the highs. So you don't need that big of a move to get your double off, just to move back up against these highs. So that's fair. But if you're a little more conservative, I would say for one, there's, I can see M's coming in OBV here. That's an M. And I could see an M in RSI through the 50 line, that was actually technically a divergence as we like moved to those highs. And so and RSI is definitely not oversold here. So it looks like it wants lower. So, I mean, I think, this might be a great place to work a bid is down against the lows. Just look for that FU move down at 33 cents. That's a 50% down from here. So to be clear, this looks like it's still going down. There's no W right here to make me think otherwise. We just got a nice bounce on the positive news that guy's not getting liquidated. And I think that guy's liquidation level is 40. So he might still, well, maybe it's different now that I don't know what deal. I didn't even read that article in full. I don't know what deal they have, but his liquidation level was 40 cents. Might not be still, but there might still be a lot of interest in pushing price down there. So I'm not saying this thing's bottom for sure yet, but in a general sense of like trying to nibble this thing here this year, I don't see a problem with it. And I did have a bid working there. Let's see. I've been going an hour. Let me pick. I mean, in terms of like go and run out and buy this thing right away, I can't say that there's that YGG was probably the closest to like one that I think is worth acting on. Or actually this earn too. I mean, I liked buying that. I don't know if I even said that I bought that W, but I did buy that W there. So, I like that. And I kind of like this fourth. This one sort of looks the same as earn. And mostly, hopefully, you can just see the strong OBV. That's sort of what I'm looking for the most. I like to see this base come in and then OBV showing that accumulation's happening, because you can't really see it in volume because people are just slowly accumulating. You see it in OBV more, where it's like trending up now. Money's flowing in, not out. And so, and then there's been, of course, there's a couple big volume days here recently, sort of, popping price up. Maybe that was, people stepped in and bought, and then now they're waiting for price to calm back down to continue buying. But to me, when I see OBV looking like this, I'm thinking, when I see that in conjunction with this basing period, then I think that money's flowing in. So that's all I really need to see. I like to see a weekly chart with OBV that looks like that, and then good location, and then a weekly W. There's 3 reasons, and here we have another kind of wonky W for sure, but I think buys against that breakout level are reasonable. So, just what's that? $2.84. We're probably going to come back in there. That seems like a good level to that, and even below if you want to be a cheap ass. And then to be fair, I do think that this will take longer it's like, this is why I like to sprinkle my bids. I kind of, my process is somewhere in between dollar cost averaging and buy. I like to kind of just, I don't know, it's just me. Maybe it's too much work and even complicates things a little bit, but I like to sort of ease my way into these things. And so, I'm happy to like buy this breakout level, but make sure I leave room, because ultimately I do think you'll probably get a wider W somewhere down the line, and it'll probably come in like off that same level. It'll look something like that. And like, even this would be like January-ish. So like, end of the year, then we bottom, and then sometime early next year, this could potentially start. Maybe it takes a little longer, but my point is there's a lot of time to ease your way into this. And of course, if you get any moves up to like this area, $6, you're already banging out doubles. So that's a long way of saying this weekly W is kind of steep and ugly. That I like to see W's like that. Even YGG was tighter than this, but it's still very flat. And so we're still early here. And maybe I'll end with Doge for fun, because the only thing I wanted to say about Doge is I just happened to notice that the OBV is starting to look really promising. I mean, there's a couple, I like Doge in general. Just, I think if you're going to be like an altcoin investor, you got to at least own a little bit of Doge. The question with Doge is where to buy it, because we still have a lot of downside here. If Doge decides it wants to just roll over and start testing lower levels, I mean, there's a big fair value gap here down at like 23 cents, 24 cents. And so if we don't hold these current lows, then, look out below. But the only thing that I'll mention here is I pulled the chart up randomly today and just noticed that we're confirming a weekly OBV divergence. So just on this move, even low, I mean, you could even go, there's 2 if you go all the way back to that low. And I like this too when it's after the pop. Like, I like divergences that come in like from this low to a new low, and then there was like a pop in the middle. That's okay. But better yet, I'd like to see it right here on the pullback after the last rally, because now we've established a range here. We have a weekly W and a high up here. So there's like a pretty wide range, up to 16 cents and down to 5 cents. That's the range that's now established. We're holding that low for the moment. And as we were making new lows in this area here, OBV started Wing out, and now we actually have, last week, or yesterday, I guess, or wait, today's Tuesday. At the end of last week, we confirmed this W. We actually broke out through the middle of the W. So now we have confirmed OBV divergence. So I would say reason, 1 is here. Location's good, although I hate that there's a lot of downside with Doge. Like, it's just kind of the reality, like we're below 88.6 of the entire move, but there's still a lot of downside if we start losing these current lows. So that's a risk for sure. But I like the idea of this thing just like gently putting in a weekly W, maybe even off that level now. So it's like that. And then so ultimately this like sort of 9 cent level, which is 88.6, and it's also that key high. That seems like a nice level to to bottom at if this, if these lows can hold. Like I could see Wing around that level. So anywhere around here seems like a reasonable place to buy Doge, as long as you're willingly accepting the fact that we could lose the lows and then we have a lot of downside. So that kind of depends on the whole market. If the market can kind of maintain and base here, then Doge will probably base right here. Of course, if there's any sort of horrible events or something, maybe we have to come lower. But mostly I just saw that weekly divergence and I was like, damn. So now I got two good reasons. I just need my, my nice W here. So I guess the general consensus is still a little early. I mean, that's funny how long this shit takes. Like, we've been talking on the Sunday show since January. There was like a nice solid first quarter kind of rally, banging out tons of doubles, and really nice moves, like especially like the AI, that was like the AI driven rally, like Render and stuff. But a lot of other coins got dragged up with it. And then some like Doge didn't really do much. We didn't do anything first part of the year on Doge. But there was some sort of like first quarter rally. Then things kind of calmed down, and now it's a question of like, do we get any sort of summer rally? And then if we do, great. But either way, I think towards the end of the year is the next true buy opportunity. So up until then, it's more just like kind of we're still a little early here. There's not like this is like a V bottom here. It's not a W. So I mean, patience is the name of this game. Which is funny. I'm not a particularly patient person by default. So I want it to start now just like everybody else. But we can use these tools to very simply tell us that it's not ready yet. And even, like going back to YGG, there's only two G's. Like even this one, it's like a nice W here that could result in the double. But I don't think the real bottom's in yet. It's too small. We want to see a nice drawn out bottom. And so like this sure might pop up and get doubles. Totally. Like you could have, if you were in here buying 16 cents, you would have actually gotten your double already just on, you didn't have many reasons to be a buyer right there, but you could have, if you did. So there would have been one double. And then of course, now you could maybe get a second one. But I do think, this is sort of a range. You can kind of see the top of my range, and we're probably going to play around in this until that halving event. So hopefully that all makes sense. I think I'll leave it at that. I think I talked about a few ideas that are, close to buy. Well, this one's buyable. Earn's buyable. Alpaca, I'm just sort of watching. I don't even know anything about it. Curve, nibbles are fine, but it's not bottomed yet. It's not even showing signs of a bottom yet. And that's all. Those are the ones I covered, and I'll just leave it at that for today. And nobody really gave me any requests, so I was trying to see if anybody had anything I wanted to look at. But I didn't get too many requests, so anyhow, it's been about an hour though. I don't want to keep going on too long, so I'll just call it that. And I think I will be back next Tuesday for the public, and then also just during the week I'm streaming. I'm going to try to make some kind of video for the, premium members, but, so I'll be doing that around the same time every day. And, then this on Tuesdays, and then Sundays with Paul, for the crypto weekly review. And then you can catch me in the New York session usually too. I'm at least hanging out. I don't talk too much in that. I'm usually trying to scalp the futures market during that time. So I try to, it's really easy for me to lose focus, but I usually am in that room either way. And I'll just leave it at that. Join our Discord if you haven't. If you're, if you're new to trading, feel free to reach out to me, and I can at least help point you in the right direction with maybe how to get started, and especially how to get started with our group, and like what might be the most beneficial approach for you to just jump in and start learning if you don't know anything about this stuff. And of course, if you are like a trader that's already active in the market, but maybe you don't have like a community to like bounce ideas off of, or at least just confirm your ideas, or at least just like sort of see how other people do it, then consider joining our group. And, you can get a taste of different styles of people and what they're doing and how they go about it. And it might just help you improve on your own trading. So yeah, anyhow, feel free to reach out to me if you've got any feedback or for any other reason, and I'll try to help you if I can. And so with that said, thanks guys for showing up, and a couple people giving me a shout out in the chat. I appreciate that. I'm just here trying to do my best, and I'll continue doing that for the time being. And I'll just leave it at that. So you guys all have a good rest of your days, evenings or whatnot, and I'll see some of you in the New York session tomorrow. So with that said, I'll say goodbye.